to try that again because something isn't working here. Get the power plugged in. Sorry about that. Went into USB mode again. Okay, in case I missed everything I started off by saying, this is Simon's SG, it's a Godin SG. I think this is a beautiful guitar. It's nice and light. Seymour Duncan pickups, P90s, a bit of crackle. That's quite nice. Got quite a nice cut through even on the bridge pickup. Often I don't know, I find a lot of bridge pickups are distinctly cloudy. I mean, obviously this is with this tone full on, but well, I like it. So I kind of persuaded Simon to hold on to it. So what I'm going to do is look at making sure the tuning is stable. I think, like a lot of people, Simon's first thought was that the tuners were not good enough, and I actually think they almost certainly are. And I managed to, while he was here, I managed to stretch out a lot of slack from the strings that were on this guitar, even though they'd been on a little while, I think. But you know, basically to make the point that, I've said this loads of times, but I will reiterate it. In my experience so far, that tuning stability is down to two principal components. First one is being the amount of slack in the strings, and I highly recommend that people manually stretch it out, taking up to 20 minutes or more to get it all stretched out like this. And even after you know, having done it the other day, you'll see I still will probably be able to stretch it out of tune. And the secret is, you just got to keep going until you can't go any more, i.e. there's no more detuning that happens. There you go. So it's still doing it. It's not to do with these tuners themselves. Now, so there isn't an awful lot to fix or do on this guitar. The action is fairly low. We'll have a look and see exactly what it is. Let's check a bit of relief. There's a little bit of relief. It's not excessive. It would be about 0.15 to 0.2, something like that. I know that Simon was a bit annoyed by the rubbing of the knob here, so we'll try and lift those pots up a little bit, or the knobs up a little bit, and then we'll see whether it can go any lower on the playing action. But I think the main thing will be taking care of the nut. Now this thing's got a tusk nut built into it, so it'd be worth keeping that. And it's a little high, so there'd be no point, no harm in trying to lower it a little bit. This is currently sitting a little high, so we may be, because there's some uneven frets under here. We shall have a look. So just on 1.5 there, and that's on 1, so that's already quite nice and low. So let's get it tuned again. Nearly stable. We've got some slightly choked off notes going on, so we have some uneven frets in here, and these are fairly low to begin with, but it's one of those things that you could probably benefit from having them leveled to get this low playing action out of it. It's going to be at this end, that's the problem. It's not unusually low, and it's buzzing a fair bit. That's just over 1.5, so I'd say it's unusual. I'm just going to try and look, see what we've got going on. I've got a feeling there's a slight hump in this neck. It's not telling me a very accurate picture. We've got relief most of the way, in fact. It's a high spot, I think. Slightly, ever so slightly raised, but it's not so bad. It should even out. Okay, not bad, not bad. It just probably needs a little bit on this edge. I think there's enough metal to do it on this, and I'm going to do it, I think, because it's worth making it play. But let's have a look, just while we're at it, at the first fret action to begin with. Having lowered the action a fraction, I'm expecting this to be pretty good. It's, as I say, it's a tusk nut already, and if anything, we're just going to find a little bit of further action down we can go. And while I'm at it, the main problem with this particular tusk nut that I can see is that it's where's my ideal one? Is that it's quite tall. The slots are quite tall, and there's probably a fair bit of chance of sticking, causing the out of tuningness. So the first thing I want to do is just open up this slot a little bit, and we may well end up taking down the bulk of the nut as well. So we're not far off that mark as it is, but as I say, my first intention will be to just get rid of the gripping down at the bottom here. So hence I'm making it into a bit of a notch to begin with. And then when I'm right at the bottom, I'll take the correct file, and I'm just going to take it down a fraction more with the correct file. So that we have the right action, but it's as neatly cut as possible. And we don't want any friction dragging. Now, a combination of the tusk nut, or with the tusk nut, that should be fairly good with this material. But again, it's a matter of cutting it right to begin with. One of the things about tusk that I find is it's not very easy to cut with files. It's a nice material to use as a nut, but files seem to just bounce off it, which is a right pain. So I'm going to resort to using the, what do I call it? The V-notch file to get down to my target action, and then just round out with the traditional nut file. See, even this isn't cutting this nut the way it cuts bone, which is one of the reasons why I tend to go for bone. Sounds like a 1980s quiz show. Going for bone. So just trying to use the correct nut file to round out the shape at the bottom so it's as smooth and as correctly shaped as possible. Now since we're going for precision here, we might as well work it all the way to the exact point we want. It just means a lot of toing and froing. Finding that this file, I'm not even sure it's cutting anything at the moment. It's just going through the motions very smoothly. And what I have found in the past is that because it doesn't hardly cut tusk, the nut files hardly cut tusk, what happens is you end up kind of in a frustration pressing very hard, and then all of a sudden it cuts and you're below your target minimum, which I don't want to have happen here. We're pretty close there actually. Might just stop there. Main issue for me, the main target for me here is to free up the slots so that we've got rid of any friction. So I am widening them at the moment into V notches. Now this one's pretty low to begin with, so actually this is currently actually under the mark, so I can't really do anything about that apart from replace the entire nut, which I don't want to do, or shim it for example. I don't want to do that just yet because it's actually not too low, but it's not too far below the minimum, so it doesn't actually play. I'm just going to try and open this up again without taking it down any further. That's the main thing. Barely on the mark, so let's just keep that. Use this to kind of clean out the slot at the bottom. Close on the mark, stop where it is. This one's actually on the ball as well. Again, I'll just mostly just widen this up for the time being, and that I could do that just by keeping a close eye on the profile of the slot. What you want more than anything else is to have a smooth movement of the string through the slot. This has got a fair bit of what looks like graphite put on here, so somebody's tried to keep the strings moving over the over the ears. It's almost on the mark now, but again lots of graphite in there, meaning that it's been presenting some sort of problem, so let's see if we can ease it off. Yeah, it's really odd how tusk cuts or doesn't cut, I should say. Very weird. That's why I kind of avoid it, because it doesn't behave the way you want it to when you're going for a precision height of a cut. It's got a bit of a mind of its own. It's okay. Not bad actually, not having to go too far, thankfully. if you end up taking the action down a little bit, you might want to then reshape the nut above the bottom of the slots, because all of that material above where this nut is, the strings are sitting, is superfluous really. There's no use for it. It's just bulk. Now it sort of looks tidy, and if we take it down we will end up flattening it somewhat, which changes the way it looks. But you can make a nice tidy, flatter looking thing out of it. And it's not, I'm never doing that just for the sake of it. As you know, as you can see, I'm doing it because I'm aiming for the target first fret action to begin with. Okay, it's close. A little bit more. Still a little bit more. Obviously it's the front of the nut that is the critical bit, because that's dictating the height really. You want to be able to cut it down backwards, so you kind of have to take the whole nut slot down, including the front edge and the back edge, and of course the back edge is quite chunky, so it's going to put up a bit of a fight. Okay, that's good. Right, so sorry, camera. Now, I'm not sure what gauge strings are on here. I think it's the hybrids. We're going to try and keep these original ones on, but I think we may need to change them out if we're going to do a fret level. But let's have a look and feel. Not bad, just the bottom two strings. So a little bit of buzz on those bottom two strings. I wouldn't want to increase the relief any. That's enough down there. It's about 0.2, I think, 0.25. Well, so the difference is, if we want to get rid of that buzz, we could go back up to the wrong way. Go back up to the 2mm mark, which is where it was. Don't want to be there. There you go. Okay, 1.5. Yeah, like I said, it's at that action, it's slapping on these frets. Now the question is, if we were to change the profile of the neck, give it more relief or less, would it change anything? Well, more than likely not. Although I have a nice little bit of rosewood or something here to take off. On. Beautifully designed. Thank you. Let's put a bit of flattening into it. Which key is it? Is that 5? It looks like a 5. That would be unusual, but so it is. Right, let's flatten that a little bit more and see. So that's flattening it. That's now on slack, so there's no more. I don't think. Pretty sure it's not a double action one. No, it's going to come off if we carry on. So it's either tightened up or slackish. So at that height, we're getting that point. That's now about 0.25, possibly 0.3, something like that. It's interesting, isn't it? thinking we may be better suited we can't get any more relief out of it. We're just over the 1.5 millimeters. Let's leave it at that for a bit. There's so little levelling needed, if at all, and the advantage of levelling would only be on this edge here, and I'm not entirely sure that it's a high fret or a low fret problem. Well, I'm tempted to leave it like this. It's not too much relief. Don't mind the tuning. Yeah, well, I'm going to hold off that, save spending loads more money on it to level off something that may not improve the actual playing action. So we don't want to do it if it isn't necessary. Let me just adjust these here. Knobs. Let's see if we can get this to turn around without sticking. There we go. We'll put that one up level with it. Okay. Yeah. Clear of the washer at the bottom, which causes it to drag. Right. Let's do up the strap button and see if it needs any reinforcement. But yeah, I think with something with fairly old frets on it like this, I'm nervous to go ahead and start leveling, because it's expensive in terms of fret metal. I think we're at the end of the grip here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one out. I'm going to take a quick look at the screws I've just bought, which may offer a bit of a better grip for this one. It's going to be, if anything, it's going to be slightly oversized. Probably, it's not far off actually. But even a tiny bit oversized to me is better than shoving bits of wood in there. Let's just make a direct comparison. They're almost, that's pure chance, isn't it? Almost identical. Let's have a feel if it goes in any tighter. We'll give it a go because it may be just a fraction difference in the thread, but if not, then we will have to reinforce it. A couple of ways you can do it. Some people put in a bit of wood and then screw on top of that. It sort of works. I think this is going to struggle. No. Same size basically. So yeah, you can put in a little bit of wood, which gives you the extra grip. We'll put a bit of glue in with it, and that will help it settle down. Depends on the diameter of the hole to begin with. We could shove in a bit of bamboo and go in on top of that. Put a bit of glue. Sometimes I use glue and wood, sometimes I'll use resin, quick setting resin on its own, but that is quite a brutal way around it. And you run the risk of potentially, if it's in the mood and it sticks really well, you might never get it out again, even if you want to, and could even risk shearing off the screw. So to avoid that sort of thing, wood glue is always a better option. So just get that into the hole and then help it sink in. Quite difficult because there's always air trying to get out of the same hole, so to try and basically ooze it down the side. It seems to be telling me it's full up. Not entirely sure I believe it. But then, just to make absolutely sure, cover over your replacement bit of wood with some glue as well. Okay, so probably makes sense to let this set before doing anything else to it, but we can snip it at this point as well and get rid of the excess glue. So it can go on there. I think what I'll do is I will put this off to one side while the glue and the wood set in there, and then we'll trim it with the blade, and then we'll come back to it and put that in. Now I think that's all I'm going to do with this for now. The main issue with this is to have got the nut slots keeping it in tune properly. That's the main thing, stretching out the slack and give Simon a chance to play it without it going out of tune on him for a couple of weeks, and then to decide whether he likes it or not. I mean, when he brought it over, his complaint wasn't really about the action of it. It was absolutely about the tuning and not being sure. Now, I'm also just keeping it simple. I'm also going to leave the nut unaltered from that. We're not going to shave it down or anything. There's no reason to. It's not that extreme a look even as it stands. I think it looks perfectly good. So we'll leave it as is rather than change the look so much. And we'll put this back on. Remember, we're at the sort of complete slack point, just tightened enough for the truss rod. That's that thing called the adjuster to not rattle. That's what we want. We don't really want it. I didn't want it straightening it out anymore. I just wanted it not to rattle. But like I say, I'm not convinced. Bizarrely, there are some necks that just do that with 9 strings. It's something about the amount the strings move or something. You go to 10s and that little bit of buzz goes away, and it could. The reason I'm saying that is that this isn't fret buzz. would, if necessary, another time I would level it, but we're not starting with very new frets to begin with, so I think I would rather keep this cheap and cheerful for the time being. Have the nut slots right, have the first fret action right, and have it stay in tune. That was my main objective for this, and then we'll see what Simon makes of it. If necessary, you could always put it back up to the 2mm action. Wouldn't be my ideal height, but it's perfectly playable. If it were clearly fret buzz, then I would go after it with a fret leveling, but it's not showing up as that. It's showing up as a kind of fret slap, which is clearance of the rotating strings, really, or lack of. Okay, that's low enough. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of masking tape over there while I hang it up out of the way, and we'll probably go and get on with something else. Okay, so that's the Godin SG. I think a lovely neck. The neck feels like a Les Paul neck, with Seymour Duncan P90s and very responsive volume and tone controls. I just think, what's not to like in that package? The only thing that is annoying me very slightly is that little bit of fret slap. Combination of the shape of the neck, the strings, and the way they move once strummed. It's not to do with the nuts first fret action setting either, because if it were, you'd only find it on open strings. The fact that you're hearing it a little bit on all the strings tells me it's just some sort of relationship between the way those strings are spinning and that neck, which is kind of slightly odd. But hey, let's leave it as this for now, and then we'll see how it plays.